So behind me here, this is artist interpretation of Surfers Beach and the jetty break up in the harbor there. So you can see the rocks and the curve of Half Moon Bay. Anyway, reference to Half Moon Bay, reference to housing in general, what I find when I'm working with buyers and sellers, one of the big underlying tones that comes through, for me at least, and when it's discussed, it kind of surfaces and everybody is on the same page, is that most people are afraid of making a mistake, either selling at the wrong time, not selling for enough, moving to a new location, buying your first home, buying your second home, relocating, whatever the situation is. There's just a fear factor of not making the right decision, not doing the right thing. And that's very understandable. Not everybody buys and sells houses every day. There are people that do that, investors, flippers, different categories of people. Your average person that's buying something to live in, to call it home, or selling something that they've been in for 30 years or 40 years, there's a lot of emotional energy that goes into that decision. It's not just always financial, although financial is a big part of it because it's usually the largest investment somebody's making. So when you're making your largest investment you've ever made, you don't want to make a mistake. Very understandable. So what I run across fairly frequently, not always, but fairly frequently, is when I'm working with a seller that is decided to sell and move out of the area or downsize or go chase the kids of where they landed after college, whatever that might be, is the expectation is, this is how much I need to make this happen, so this is how much I want for my house, which is understandable, but not always relative to the current market situation. We're in 2026, 2020, 2021, a little bit of 2022, we saw phenomenal appreciation in the market. Rates were low, everybody was moving, it was the middle of the pandemic. Who knew that we were gonna have a major real estate boom during a global pandemic? But we did. Here locally, Bay Area, we probably saw 35% increase in values in 2 years. That's just off the charts, unheard of. So things have settled back down, interest rates have gone up, we have global situations going on, and that impacts value. So we have sellers looking or remembering back a few years of, hey, my neighbors put their house on the market, sold it in 2 days, got $300,000 over asking price, and they got to stay there for 90 days, and. Well, we're not in that market anymore. So to set an expectation that I need this much money to make this happen, $1.5 million, but my house is only worth $1 million, there's somebody out there, and the comment, at least in the Bay Area here, is, there's probably some young kid that just got his stock options at Facebook or Google or whatever brand you want to call it, and they're going to buy my house because they have all this stupid money falling out of their pockets. Well, no, that might happen that many times, but when you're talking a market that's this big and hoping for the needle in the haystack, that usually doesn't happen. So even if somebody has stupid money falling out of their pockets, there's usually somebody on the sidelines advising them that, hey, that's a stupid move. And whether that's a relative, a boss, financial advisor, or their realtor that says, hey, here's the comps, and you probably don't want to pay, a third more than the property's worth, because when you decide to sell it, you're going to be upside down. So where am I going with this is, me as a real estate professional, or not any other realtor, but most other realtors are going to look at what current market conditions are. Are homes sitting on the market for a week before they sell, a month, 3 months, 6 months? Are we seeing multiple offers? Is the inventory high? Is it low? Is it average? How many similar homes are for sale that you're looking for in a certain radius? And they're going to take all that information to apply a value to your house. Is every property have its little nuances? Yeah. So if we're looking at, say, Zillow or Redfin or any other home estimator, value estimator, it's taking hard data and giving you a number. So example that I like to use is 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot house on a 5,000 square foot lot. So if you've been to Phoenix or Vegas or Texas or somewhere around the country where they're building big subdivisions that are 3, 4, 5,000 houses at a time, and there's 5 or 6 floor plans in there, that type of estimator actually works because it's choosing from this neighborhood of 5,000 houses with this many floor plans. So the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, they're all the same. They might have an appliance upgrade or, upgrade on countertops, but in general, those numbers work. You go to any other area, the coast side here that was been built out since the 1800s, you have neighborhoods that are built in the 70s. You got spatterings of houses from 10 decades. Then that basically just data approach doesn't work, because you can have a 3-bedroom 2-bath house that's 1,500 square feet on a 5,000 square foot lot that's on the east side of the highway, right next to the highway, and it's going to apply a value. You could have the same square footage and size that's on Railroad Avenue or Valamar or one of the unobstructed ocean view streets along the coast here, and those two houses are going to have a wide spread in value. And the other thing that's not taken into consideration is condition. Is this house that was built in 1972 just remodeled last year? Data aggregate machine can't figure that out and doesn't. So when you're looking at a value of, hey, this says my house is worth $1.1 million. Okay, well, did it take into consideration you're next to the highway, your neighbor's house is a wreck, you haven't remodeled since 1972, yada, yada, yada. So as a professional, I come in and go, okay, well, that's what this says, but let's look at what we're competing against, what you actually have, and where's that value fall. And it may fall far from what your expectations are, but I can't change that. And most realtors can't, because we take, I refer to it as data and science. So the data is, here's what we see that's active, pending, sold, that's similar to your property. So we take that data, and then the art part is, okay, well, I have that information, but now I need to take these other things into consideration. East side of the highway, west side of the highway, view, general neighborhood condition. Do you have 10 rentals around you that are all, weeds 3 feet high, or is everything similar and everything's nice? And that can vary from street to street in a neighborhood. So that's the art part of it. So I take that information, give you a suggestion, you give me your feedback, but the ultimate decider is the market. And the market is the buyers that are out there that are ready, willing, and able to buy, to negotiate and come to an agreement with a seller. And that I don't have any control over, and nobody does that I'm aware of. So ultimately, the market decides what your home is worth, not yourself and what you actually need from your property, not me taking 25 years of experience, market data, and experience and applying a value. It's ultimately the market. And sometimes, I'm right on. Sometimes I'm way off and we're overpriced and it just doesn't work, and we need to reduce the price to meet the market needs and demand. And other times before that happens, I get kicked to the curb, and that's okay. When you are planning on buying or planning on selling, listening to and doing your research is a good idea. Today, AI is a lot of people's go-to information source. Is that information always accurate? No, it's not. And AI will provide you where it pulled that information from, what website, what article. So it's important to look at that and not just take hey, what's my house worth in Half Moon Bay because it's blah, 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 and it gives you an answer. Is that accurate? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But I wouldn't hang my hat on that information. In the process of making a decision that is sometimes scary to make because it's a big investment emotionally and financially, you do need to do your homework. You need to talk to more than one person. Talk to, your neighbor that's owned his house for 50 years. Talk to a friend that just bought a house in the last 30, 60 days. Talk to your parents or a friend that's bought and sold 4 or 5 houses. Talk to a couple local realtors, get their opinions. We're not all the same. Are just learning the business, that are super enthusiastic, that'll probably provide you some great service because they're fired up and ready to go. And you're gonna have somebody that does one transaction a year that's been in the business for 15 years. But at one transaction a year, how much experience do they have? You have somebody like myself. I've been in the business 25 years, been doing, double-digit transactions most of that time. So I have some experience. Does that mean I'm always the expert and the right person? No, not always, because within a transaction, you have people, which is a big variable. And that's what keeps me entertained and having fun in this industry, is because each transaction, even though I'm selling a house or a condo or a ranch or land, is I'm dealing with a different client, whether it's a buyer or seller. I'm dealing with a different agent on the other side of the transaction. We're dealing with a lender. We're dealing with title and escrow. We're dealing with insurance. And it takes that big group of people to help put a transaction together. And depending on those personalities, the needs, the stress level, what else is going on in their lives, it can go super smooth and it can be just a circus. And so, going to the cocktail party and hearing about somebody's experience is their view of the experience, and that view from the cocktail party conversation is either, it was a complete disaster and nothing went right, or it went so smooth, we're not sure how it happened and when it happened, but it just happened. And you usually don't hear the details in between that, the normal transaction. So what I'd like to say is that we all have our own experience. We all have our own needs and expectation, but ultimately the market sets the value for your property. There's some strategies to bring more people through the front door initially. There's, marketing techniques, how that's done, how it's exposed to the market. There's a lot of companies that are pushing in-house off-market sales. Is, hey, we have all these agents and we're going to expose your house to the market before it goes to the market, our large network of agents, and we may get it sold before it even hits the market. That works. It happens every day. But if you're putting your house on the market and you want to get it sold, wouldn't you want the most eyeballs to see it? And if you're a buyer and you do not happen to be working with a particular company that tries to sell or help you buy a house within what they have in-house, are you missing a bunch of stuff that's on the market and that you never got exposure to? So there's a lot of nuances going on. There's a lot of consolidation in our current market. A company called Real, which is a virtual real estate company, is in the process of buying Remax, who's been around forever, big international footprint. In general, Remax agents do a lot more volume than most other agents. That's just the way they're set up. Compass just bought Anywhere, and Anywhere is an umbrella company that owns Coldwell Banker, Cochrane, C21, Sotheby's and a handful of other real estate companies. So we just took like 10 brands and put them under one. And so there's a lot of changes, and there's a big power push grab of who's controlling the information. Right now, basically the MLSs are the one that we put our information in there, and then it goes out to all the other websites, whether that's a real estate company, Redfin, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Zillow, you name it. So the information goes through there and goes out. Well, some of these companies, as they're doing these consolidations, are looking to control their own data and not share it through the MLSs or through these other large consumer-facing portals. So as we move forward, we're going to see more changes, and we'll then have to apply different strategies to work around that and do the best we can for our client for where we're at. So I know I kind of weaved in and out there, but basically, if you're planning on buying or selling, you're going to be making an emotional and a financial decision, and unless you're super business savvy, you're going to be concerned. And even the business savvy people are concerned. I've dealt with CFOs that, were looking at buying oceanfront property and were concerned that they were going to pay too much and get left holding the bag of, we paid too much for this property. So it's a concern at all levels, whether you're a first-time buyer or you're buying your third or fourth house. But that level of stress is different as you go up in the different categories. So if you're having that experience, it's not uncommon. It's part of the process. And I try and help my clients get through that process with the least amount of stress, providing them as much information as they need to make an informed decision. And back again, the market can change. So personally, I bought a house in the late 80s, sold a house, bought a house. Literally 30 days later, the market dropped like 20-25%. And I was freaked out. I went and talked to my dad, who was a business owner and had bought and sold real estate. And he's like, "Can you make the payment?" "Yes." "Then what's the concern? You're not planning on selling it today. You just bought it. And 5 or 10 years from now, you will make money. So don't worry about the immediate, the interest rates might come down. Oh, the prices may go up. Oh, we think the market's going to go to heck in the handbasket, and so we're going to wait." Well, those people that have been waiting are going to pay more than if they would have made a move 6 months ago, a year ago. So basically it comes down to personal timing, personal finances. Is if you can afford to do what you want to do now, then now is the best time to do it, because we don't know what's going to change the economy. We don't know what's going to change the housing market. It could be a natural disaster. It could be a world event. It could be interest rates. It could be a number of things which we have no control over. So we have to take the information we have today, apply it, and move forward. And if you're not, unless you're an investor that's buying and you want to, flip it in 2 months or 6 months, that's a higher risk. If you're buying something to live in and you're going to live there for 5, 10, 15 years, if the market's sputtering like this for a few years, that's okay, because you're not planning on selling. So I hope all that made sense. If you have questions based on the information I shared, please reach out. You can contact me at 650-888-9900. Frank Vento and Terrell Real Estate, serving San Mateo County. Click the link below to subscribe, and thanks for watching.